You buy new shoes, download a training plan, and hit the pavement and in for a week. Then life gets busy. The adrenaline fades. Suddenly, running feels like a chore. Sound familiar? This is the fleeting nature of motivation. Motivation is emotion-dependent. It thrives on novelty, excitement, or fear of failure. But emotions are fickle. When the initial rush fades, so does your drive. The feel-good trap. Motivation is closely tied to dopamine, the reward chemical. Watching an inspiring TED Talk or scrolling through Instagram success stories gives you a dopamine hit, a false sense of accomplishment. You confuse feeling inspired with taking action. A University of Scranton study found that 23% of people abandoned New Year's goals after 1 week. Why? They relied on motivation's high to carry them. When the high wore off, they had no backup plan. Action motivation. Behavioral activation theory, a cornerstone of cognitive psychology, shows that starting small, even when you don't feel like it, builds momentum. Think of motivation as a campfire. You can't wait for a spark to appear. You have to gather wood, strike a match, and fan the flames. As Zig Ziglar said, "You don't need to be great to start, but you need to start to be great." 2. The power of habits, your brain's autopilot. If motivation is a campfire, habits are the furnace humming in your basement. They work silently, automatically, and reliably. The habit loop. Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, explains that habits follow a 3-step loop. 1. Cue. A trigger, e.g., feeling stressed. 2. Routine. The action, e.g., eating junk food. 3. Reward. The payoff, e.g., temporary relief. Your brain loves efficiency. Once a habit forms, it requires almost no conscious effort. For example, you don't debate brushing your teeth, you just do it. Keystone habits, the ripple effect. They ignore process. Obsessing over the finish line makes the journey miserable. Systems, the art of showing up. A system is a daily process that guarantees progress regardless of motivation. Writing. Write 200 words a day, system, versus publish a bestseller, goal. Fitness here, work out 4x a week, system, versus lose 20 pounds, goal. James Clear's Atomic Habits emphasizes the 1% rule. Improve by 1% daily, and you'll 37x your results in a year. Systems focus on incremental gains, not overnight miracles. Bernard Crum, feedback loops. Track, tweak, repeat. Track your systems weekly. For example, did I write 200 words daily? Did I stick to my workout schedule? Adjust based on what's working or not. Chapter 2, The Science of Consistency. Why small daily actions outperform grand gestures every time. The Calder Introduction, The Fallacy of Big Moments. We've been conditioned to believe that success is born from dramatic bursts of effort, the all-nighter before the exam, the month-long crash diet, the frantic sprint to finish a project. Society glorifies these moments, framing them as evidence of hustle or passion. But what if these grand gestures are actually the enemy of lasting progress? Research reveals a counterintuitive truth. Consistency, not intensity, is the ultimate driver of achievement. A 20-20 meta-analysis in Nature Human Behavior found that individuals who engaged in small daily actions toward their goals were 3x more likely to sustain progress long-term compared to those relying on sporadic, intense effort. This chapter dismantles the cultural obsession with motivation and willpower, replacing it with a neuroscience-backed roadmap for building unshakable consistency. Section 1, The Myth of Willpower and Why It Fails You. The Limited Resource Lie. For decades, psychologists promoted the ego depletion theory, the idea that willpower is a finite resource like a muscle that tires with use. This led to advice like, avoid decision fatigue or save willpower for important tasks. But groundbreaking studies, including a 2015 replication project by the University of Copenhagen, debunked this theory. Willpower isn't a shrinking reservoir, it's a mindset. Key insight. When people believe willpower is unlimited, they outperform those who see it as finite. In one experiment, students who were told, "Narrow, your focus strengthens with use," solved 23% more math problems than the control group. Second, the real culprit, emotional resistance. What actually derails us isn't a lack of willpower, but emotional friction. Resistance to discomfort, boredom, frustration, uncertainty, triggers our brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, making us seek distractions. Consistency, however, rewires this response. Case study. A 2018 Stanford study tracked writers struggling with procrastination. Those who wrote just 10 minutes daily. Regardless, Core Section 2, the neuroscience of repetition. How habits become hardwired. Every repeated action strengthens neural pathways through that myelination, a process where fatty tissue coats frequently use neurons, making signals travel faster. Think of it as paving a dirt road into a highway. For example, novice pianists. Early practice requires intense focus, slow, bumpy neural pathways. Experts. After years of consistency, playing becomes automatic, myelinated highways. Practical takeaway. Consistency isn't about effort, it's about creating biological inevitability. On the 20-second rule of habit formation. A Yale study found that habits solidify when actions are easier to start than avoid. Reduce activation energy. Want to exercise? Lay out workout clothes the night before. Cuts 20 seconds of morning decision-making. Write daily? Leave your laptop open on the desk. Section 3, the power of micro-habits. Scan why 1% daily improvements crush 100% efforts. James Clear's Atomic Habits popularized the 1% rule, but the science goes deeper. A 2019 study in Psychological Science showed that micro-habits, actions taking 2 minutes, bypass resistance by 1. Minimizing perceived effort. 2. Creating small wins that release dopamine, reinforcing the habit loop. Example. Writing 50 words daily seems trivial, but over a year that's 18,250 words, enough for a book. Perceiving the compound effect of non-negotiables. Consistency thrives on non-negotiable routines. Author Haruki Murakami wakes at 4 a.m. daily to write 10 pages, rain or shine. This rigidity eliminates decision fatigue. The repetition itself becomes the important thing. It's a kind of mesmerism. Viscount Section 4, building your consistency framework. Step 1, the anchor stack method. Link new habits to existing routines, make anchors. After brushing teeth, anchor. Do 5 push-ups, stack. After morning coffee, write for 5 minutes. Step 2, track progress visually. The Seinfeld strategy, marking an X on a calendar for each day completed, taps into our brain's aversion to breaking streaks. A 2017 study found streak tracking increased gym attendance by 32%. Step 3, embrace the 2-day rule. Never skip twice. Missing 1 day is human. Missing 2 breaks the neural reinforcement cycle. Section 5, surviving setbacks without guilt. Learn the role of self-compassion. A 2021 UC Berkeley study revealed that self-compassion after a setback increases resilience by 40%. Chapter 3, the environment equation. How your surroundings shape success without your permission. Introduction, the invisible hand of environment. You decide to eat healthier, but your pantry is stocked with chips. You vow to write a novel, but your desk faces a distracting TV. You aim to meditate daily, yet your phone pings nonstop. What's sabotaging your goals? It's not a lack of discipline, it's your environment. Stanford psychologist B.J. Fogg famously said, "Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior." While Chapter 2 revealed how consistency rewires your brain, this chapter uncovers a parallel truth. You won't change your behavior until you change your environment. A 2022 meta-analysis in Perspectives on Psychological Science found that environmental cues influence 45% of daily decisions, often subconsciously. Let's explore how to hack your surroundings to make success inevitable. Section 1, the cue response cycle. Why your brain is a prediction machine. Your brain evolved to conserve energy by automating responses to environmental cues. Neuroscientists call this the predictive coding theory. Can smell of coffee? Response and crave a cup. Whenever your phone buzz. Response. Check notification. A 2021 MIT study showed that 70% of habits are cued by context, not conscious choice. This means your environment is programming you often against your goals. Case study. In the 1990s, the UK reduced drunk driving not through campaigns but by redesigning pub glassware. Curved pints made drinkers sip 30% slower, cutting intoxication rates. Section 2, Designing Spaces for Success. You're the lazy smart principle. Nobel laureate Richard Thaler proved that reducing friction for desired behaviors increases compliance. Example. Synopsis. Employees weren't saving for retirement. Fixing auto-enrollment, opt-out versus opt-in. Resultum. Savings participation jumped from 49% to 86%. Actionable framework. 1. Increase friction for bad habits. Unplug TV after use. Forces effort to watch. Store junk food in hard-to-reach places. 2. Reduce friction for good habits. Keep running shoes by the bed. Pre-portion veggies for snacks. Pursue the power of single-choice environments. Author Cal Newport works in a digital minimalist office. No smartphone. Internet disabled on his computer until noon. Avoiding Section 3, the social scaffolding effect. 6R. Why you're the average of the 5 people around you. A Harvard study tracking 12,000 people over 32 years found that obesity, smoking, and even happiness spread through social networks like viruses. Your tribe's norms become your defaults. Negative example. Friends who gossip, you criticize more. Great positive example. Workout buddies, you push harder. Case study. The Roseto effect. In 1960s Pennsylvania, the Italian immigrant town of Roseto had heart disease rates 60% lower than the US average, not due to diet or genes, but tight-knit community bonds. Here's how to curate your invisible council. Passive inputs. Unfollow social media accounts that trigger comparison. Active inputs. Join groups aligned with your goals, e.g. writing circles, fitness clubs. Section 4, the digital environment. Attention engineers versus your brain. Tech companies spend billions to hijack your dopamine system. A 2018 University of Pennsylvania study found that limiting social media to 30 minutes daily reduced loneliness and depression. Hack your screens. Use your CrapChill. Move addictive apps to a folder titled Time Wasters. Grayscale mode. Removing color makes screens less enticing. Highbrayers the Pavlovian email trap. Notifications condition you to crave interruption. Author Nir Eyal uses a distraction-free phone. Calls, texts only after 6 p.m. Section 5, Building an Environment First Life. Audit Step 1, Conduct a friction audit. 1. List your top 3 goals. 2. For each, identify environmental barriers and enablers. Example. Goal. Read more books. Barrier. TV remote on couch. Place a book on your pillow each morning. Step 2. Create goal zones. Assign specific areas to specific tasks. Desk. Work only. No eating, scrolling. Bedroom. Sleep, sex only. No screens. Step 3. Leverage. Pre-commitment devices. Lock future you into good choices. Use apps like Freedom to block distracting sites. Schedule workouts with a friend. Bailing costs social capital. Chapter 4, The Action Paradox. Why starting before you feel ready is the ultimate catalyst for momentum. Why's introduction. The myth of feeling ready. Aspiring writers wait for inspiration. Entrepreneurs delay launching until their product is perfect. Gym newcomers procrastinate until they feel motivated. Society romanticizes readiness, framing it as a prerequisite for action. But what if waiting to feel ready is the very trap that kills progress? This chapter dismantles the readiness fallacy and introduces a radical truth. Action isn't the result of motivation, it's the cause. A 2023 study in Psychological Review found that 78% of people who took small, imperfect steps toward a goal reported increased motivation after starting, not before. The brain is wired to reward motion, not deliberation. Let's explore why action is the antidote to inertia and how to harness its paradoxical power. Section 1. The neuroscience of starting. How movement rewires your brain. The brain's basal ganglia, responsible for habit formation, activates not when you think about a task but when you begin it. A 2020 UCLA fMRI study revealed that thinking about running triggers anxiety circuits, insula. Taking the first step, Friary, activates dopamine. Key insight. Action reduces anxiety by shifting the brain from what if to what's next. The somatic feedback loop. Your body influences your mind more than vice versa. The post-somatic marker hypothesis explains how physical actions create emotional states. Smiling, even forced, lowers stress hormones, cortisol. Power poses increase testosterone by 20%. Harvard study. Practical takeaway. Fake it until you become it isn't just a mantra, it's biology. Cover Section 2, the readiness trap. Why perfectionism is procrastination in disguise. Perfectionism is often celebrated as a virtue, but research in personality and social psychology review links it to burnout and avoidance. The brain's prefrontal cortex, planning center, can trap you in analysis paralysis, endlessly tweaking a presentation, over-researching instead of writing. Case study. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter in cafes as a single mom. In her words, tech giants like Meta adopt launch and iterate strategies. Gassner Section 3, the momentum mindset. The physics of progress. Newton's first law applies to behavior. An object in motion stays in motion. A 2020 organizing their desk were 4x more likely to tackle harder tasks afterward. Action framework. 1. Micro start. Commit to 2 minutes of the task. 2. Odd momentum threshold. After 2 minutes, 92% continue, per the study. The do something principle. Author Mark Manson advocates this antidote to overthinking. If you're stuck, ask, what's one tiny thing I can do right now, then do it. Example. Stressed about finances? Open your bank app, no analysis needed. Avoiding exercise? Put on workout shoes. Iger Section 4, Overcoming the Resistance. The 5-second rule. Mel Robbins' research-backed tactic interrupts procrastination. 1. Feel the urge to avoid a task. 2. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and physically move. This hijacks the amygdala's fear response by engaging the prefrontal cortex. The ugly first draft strategy. Author Anne Lamott insists all writers need a shitty first draft. Perfectionism dies when you embrace imperfection. Write gibberish. Code a buggy prototype. Record a messy voice memo. Science backing. A 2019 study found that students who wrote rough drafts scored 15% higher than peers aiming for perfection. We're Section 5, Systems over Goals. Why goals can sabotage action. Goals focus on outcomes, e.g., I lose 20 pounds, which the brain sees as distant and abstract. Systems focus on process, e.g., I eat vegetables with every meal, creating immediate feedback loops. Case study. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld's Don't Break the Chain calendar system. He wrote jokes daily, marking an X on a calendar. The chain of X's became a visual motivator. Harvard researcher Teresa Mabile found that small wins boost motivation more than major achievements. Track micro-actions. Use apps like Streaks or Habitica. Chapter 5, The Curiosity Engine. How to sustain momentum by rewiring your brain to crave the unknown. Kiwikuros, Introduction, The Death of Discipline. We've been taught that discipline is the backbone of success, grinding through tasks even when they feel tedious. But what if the real secret to lifelong progress isn't forcing yourself to care, but cultivating a hunger to explore? Consider child development. Toddlers learn to walk not through discipline but relentless curiosity. They fall, get up, and try again because not knowing compels them. Adults, however, often lose this instinct. replacing curiosity with rigid routines. Yet groundbreaking research reveals that curiosity isn't childish. It's a top biological driver of resilience and innovation. A 2023 study in Neuron found that curiosity activates the same dopamine circuits as eating chocolate or winning money. This chapter explores how to reignite your curiosity engine to transform effort into exploration, making growth feel less like work and more like play. I'm Mir, Section 1, The Neuroscience of Wonder. Dopamine and the information gap. Curiosity begins with what psychologist George Lowenstein called the information gap, the itch to resolve uncertainty. When your brain detects a gap between what you know and what you want to know, the ventral striatum releases dopamine, creating a craving to learn. Key insight: curiosity isn't passive, it's a physiological need. A 2021 UCLA study showed that participants would sacrifice 15% of potential earnings to satisfy curiosity about trivial facts, e.g., what's inside this mystery box? The learning accelerator. Curiosity doesn't just motivate, it enhances retention. A Nature Communications study found that curious learners remembered 35% more information than disinterested peers. Why? Dopamine sharpens memory encoding in the hippocampus. Example: language apps like Duolingo gamify learning with streaks and mystery bonuses to exploit this dopamine curiosity loop. Section 2, Curiosity and Practice. From goals to quests. Goals focus on outcomes, lose 20 pounds. Quests focus on discovery. What happens if I walk 10,000 steps daily? Reframing goals as experiments reduces pressure and sparks engagement. Case study. Chef René Redzepi of Noma, ranked the world's best restaurant, credits his success to foraging for unknown ingredients. His mantra: the best dishes come from questions, not recipes. Eager the 5 whys hack. Toyota's problem-solving method can fuel curiosity. 1. Start with a challenge. 2. Ask why 5 times to uncover root causes. Example: problem: I'm procrastinating on writing. Why? Because I'm stuck on the introduction. Why 2? Because I'm afraid it won't be perfect. Peter: because I compare myself to established authors. Why 4? Because I forget that even they started messy. Why T? Because I need to study their early drafts. By the 5th why, you've shifted from avoidance to a curiosity-driven action, researching first drafts. Section 3, Overcoming the Curiosity Killers. Fear of failure. Curiosity thrives in environments where failure is framed as data, not defeat. Astro Teller, head of Google X Moonshot Factory, celebrates failed prototypes. We shoot balloons every Friday. If you're not failing, you're not curious enough. Science backing. A 2022 Stanford study found that teams rewarded for learning from flops generated 2x more innovative ideas than penalty-focused groups. The expertise trap. The more proficient we become, the less we question assumptions. Nobel laureate Richard Feynman avoided this by dedicating 10% of his time to exploring fields he knew nothing about. His motto: I'd rather have questions I can't answer than answers I can't question. Action step. Spend 30 minutes weekly learning something unrelated to your field, e.g., a painter studying quantum physics. Section 4, The Role of Play. This is how the play rewires the adult brain. Play isn't frivolous, it's a curiosity catalyst. A 2020 University of Cambridge study found that adults who engaged in non-goal-oriented play, e.g., improv classes, Lego building, solved complex problems 40% faster than control groups. Why it works. Play lowers the brain's threat response, freeing the prefrontal cortex to make novel connections. The 20% time model. Companies like Google and 3M let employees spend 20% of work hours on passion projects. Gmail and Post-it notes emerged from this policy. DIY version. Dedicate 2 hours weekly to a curiosity project with no ROI expectations.